Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be giving you an update on Tropical Storm Elsa, which is currently right about to make landfall with Florida. It's just off the coast of southwestern Florida, and it'll be making its way up through parts of the east coast, and then eventually it'll be moving into southeastern Canada. So we're going to be going over the track of the storm, the intensity, and all the information you need to know in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's a look at the current National Weather Service page. As you can see, we have some excessive heat warnings in parts of the southwest, as well as some more heat advisories through the west, and also some excessive heat warnings in that kind of purple shade for parts of Idaho and Oregon. We also have some red flag warnings in effect for parts of Oregon and California, as well as some more heat advisories for parts of the coastal northeast, and then we have some tropical storm related watches and warnings for parts of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Taking a look at yesterday's extremes, we had a 120-degree high temperature in Death Valley, California. 2 miles north of Walcott, Colorado, they got down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall report was in Hedwigs Hill, Texas, where they got 4.92 inches of rainfall, and there were no snowfall reports as of yesterday. Taking a look at what the current surface plot of the storm looks like, you can see that in western Cuba, just to the northwest of there, is where the storm is currently located. It's at 24.5 degrees north by 82.6 degrees west, maximum winds of about 60 miles per hour, minimum pressure of 1,007 millibars, and it's moving north-northwest at about 12 miles per hour. So again, this storm is just offshore of the Florida Keys. It's going to be actually kind of making its way around the coast of Florida, and then it'll be making landfall with the Big Bend of Florida, and that's where we're going to be dealing with the highest storm surge out of this event, and also the strongest winds from this storm. Taking a look at the key messages from the National Hurricane Center, the first one reads, heavy rain will impact Cuba today, resulting in significant flooding and mudslides as Elsa moves across the western Florida peninsula through Wednesday. Heavy rainfall may result in isolated flash, urban, and minor river flooding, with considerable flash and urban flooding possible in southwestern and western portions of Florida. Mid to late week, heavy rainfall across coastal Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and southeastern Virginia may result in isolated flash and urban flooding, with considerable flash and urban flooding possible across coastal Georgia and the low country of South Carolina. The second key message reads, there is danger of life-threatening storm surge along portions of the west coast of Florida and tonight and Wednesday, and a storm surge warning is in effect for that area. And third, a hurricane watch has been issued for portions of the west central and Big Bend coast of Florida, where hurricane conditions are possible tonight and early Wednesday. Tropical storm conditions are expected across portions of the Florida Keys and much of the west coast of the state, where tropical storm warning is in effect. And then, lastly, a tropical storm watch has been issued. For the Georgia coast and portions of the South Carolina coast, where tropical storm conditions are possible late Wednesday and early Thursday. And that is all from the National Hurricane Center's official website. Taking a look at the current rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, anywhere in the yellow is where we're expecting 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. So you can see a considerable part of that is offshore, but also for the immediate west coast of Florida, we do have a shot of seeing 4 or more inches of rainfall. For the vast majority of the coastal southeast, and then also into the western half of Florida, we have a 2 to 4 inch area of rainfall, and then the rest of the southeast for the storm is expected to get 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. So it's going to be generally about 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, and then you get through some of these areas in parts of Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and within this zone is where you could be dealing with maybe 3 to 6 inches of rainfall out of this event. Taking a look at the chances of flash flooding, we have a 20% moderate risk of flash flooding through coastal Georgia and South Carolina, as well as for areas along west central Florida. So that's where we're expecting the highest risk of flash flooding over the next couple of days. Most of that risk coming for tonight and also into tomorrow. Taking a look at the risk of storm surge, you can see that further to the south, so in the Florida Keys and also for southwestern Georgia, southwestern Florida, we have a 1 to 3 foot storm surge. Even in the Keys, it's just down to 1 to 2 foot storm surge. So not a huge issue in terms of storm surge if you live further to the south and west. It's right as you get throughout this stretch right here, from the Big Bend of Florida all the way down to west central Florida, where we have that 2 to 4 foot and even 3 to 5 foot storm surge possible in the lower Big Bend of Florida and also near Tampa Bay. And then on either side of there, we have a 2 to 4 foot storm surge. So it's going to be over this area of Florida mainly where we have the highest risk of storm surge impacts and isolated coastal flooding. So that's going to be the area you really want to watch for those type of conditions. Taking a look at the current path from this storm, you can see that we do have tropical storm conditions that are expected to continue from about tonight into and through Wednesday evening. So probably through Wednesday night, and then sometime between Wednesday night and Thursday morning, this will likely weaken to a tropical depression as it's on land through the Carolinas. Then eventually, as it pops out through the mid-Atlantic coast and as it goes back on water, we might see this re-strengthen into a tropical storm. Even though it does look like, if you were to just look at the cone of this, not knowing anything else about the storm, you would expect a lot of impacts along the east coast because the storm has most of its wind field on the eastern end of this. The only areas that are really going to be impacted by the storm are areas that are immediately east of this track. So it's not necessarily anywhere that's to the northwest of there. It's going to be areas that are east of there. So kind of that black area that I just drew in is probably a better representation of where the highest impacts will be out of this event, just considering how the storm has already played out. Taking a look at the current watches and warnings from this particular event, you can see that we have some tropical storm warnings in effect for western Florida, as well as still for a little bit of western Cuba. Those are probably going to go down quite soon. We have tropical storm watches in effect in that yellow area for a little bit of Florida and also some parts of Georgia and South Carolina, with some hurricane watches up for the Big Bend of Florida. There is a possibility that because this is staying offshore and then eventually curving into the Big Bend, that we do see a little bit of intensification as it's within this area, and it could potentially go back up to weak category 1 status, or at least high-end tropical storm status as it's doing so. Taking a look at the model intensity or the model track guidance, you can see that again most of these models are taking more of an eastern approach to this, so it's going to make impact with the Big Bend of Florida. Then it'll either be just offshore, or it'll be right along the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and then eventually as it hits Virginia is when it's going to start to go back off the coast, and then it'll impact southeastern Canada, and it's a little bit more wide open on exactly where it'll track after it leaves the mid-Atlantic coast. So we have a fairly defined track as of right now, and again, the impacts are not really going to impact anywhere that's north of that track. It's going to be just within this area right here that has the possibility of seeing the impact. So again, if you live north and west of those tracks, for the most part, you're going to be good. You're not really going to have too many impacts from Tropical Storm Elsa. Taking a look at the model intensity guidance, most of these keep it kind of stable until we hit tomorrow. Then it dips down as it goes onshore, as it makes landfall in the Big Bend of Florida. So it should weaken by then. Maybe it spikes up a little bit by the time that it's leaving the mid-Atlantic coast, and then it goes back down into either high-end tropical depression status or low-end tropical storm status. And we can't rule out a couple of these outlier models that want to keep it a little bit stronger than the rest of the group. Taking a look at the satellite imagery of this storm. You can see that again currently it is over the southwestern Florida Keys, so it is right over here by this point. Even though most of the cloud cover is further to the east, the actual storm center is right in here. So again, you can see that kind of playing out on the radar too, where if you live west of the, well, of course, because now this is over the ocean, nobody lives west of there, but if this were to say be on land, nobody within this area right here would actually be seeing any impacts. It would be only the areas within that eastern corridor of that storm that would be seeing the impacts. So we only have to really account for one side of the storm. That's the reason that the panhandle of Florida really isn't expecting too many impacts, especially if you live further to the west. But it's going to be, again, more around that Big Bend area of Florida and also around Tampa Bay, where we're dealing with the biggest impacts out of this storm. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. It is a little bit more of a shorter one, just because this storm is kind of coming to an end. I will probably have a couple more videos off topic from this tropical storm over the next couple of days. I'll probably be talking a little bit more about the severe weather threats in parts of the northern plains within the next couple of days. We already have a day 4, 15% risk of severe weather out for that area. So we're probably going to be shifting more around to the severe weather side of things, because it looks like after Elsa moves through, the tropics are going to kind of quiet down a little bit. We're not going to have as much action going on in the Atlantic, so it'll give me a little bit of a break from the hurricane coverage, and we'll talk more about severe weather and upcoming pattern changes. And by early August, we're also going to start to talk about the winter and fall forecast, so we're going to actually start to have some winter discussions on the channel. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.